everyone and welcome back to the channel. So today I've got a bit of a slightly different video for you. We're going to be seeing if it's possible to buy, tax and insure a car for £750 here in the UK. This video will be really helpful for those that have maybe just passed their driving test and they're looking for their first car, or if you're someone like myself that's been driving for a while but you're just after a second kind of cheap runabout daily car. Now, this is going to vary depending on where you live, because the prices of cars do vary depending where you are in the country in the UK, and also insurance does vary depending on where you live, what job you do, how old you are, how long you've been driving, etc, etc. So I'm just giving you my personal experience from trying to find a second car, and hopefully that will be helpful to maybe some of you out there looking for one. So when I was looking at cars to choose as my second runaround car, there were a few things that I wanted out of it. Now this is very personal choice, you guys might have a different view, so there might be a lot of different options for you. So number one was that I wanted it to be Japanese. Main reason is because, you know, they're usually very reliable, the parts for them are usually cheap, and I'm just familiar with kind of working on Japanese cars, so if it ever needed any work I can do it myself. The second thing was I wanted it to return at least 50 miles to the gallon, and this is because obviously if you're buying a second car to take to work and back, you want it to be as cheap to run as possible. Number three was obviously cheap as tax as possible. Because we were doing this on a budget, the tax had to be as cheap as possible. Now there are only a couple of cars on the list that have £30 a year road tax. If you can get one of those, then obviously great, you only have to pay £30 a year, but most other cars these days do fall into the next bracket up, which is minimum sort of £130, but we'll go into that a little bit more when I go through the cars with you. Number four, obviously because we're doing this on a budget, the car has to be cheap to buy. So I was looking around sort of on Facebook Marketplace, Auto Trader. So yeah, the car had to kind of be around the £500 mark. Obviously you're going to have to do a little bit of haggling if you want to try and do this for under £750. So yeah, I would aim to look at cars that are up for sale around £500. You could maybe go a little bit higher, but then that means you're obviously going to have to haggle down more. If you get a car that has £30 a year road tax, then you can obviously pay a little bit more for the car, because then obviously you're saving more money on the tax. So yeah, the car had to be as cheap as possible, sort of around £500 I was looking at, because then you can obviously haggle people down. Number five, and probably the most important, is making sure that the car has cheap insurance. All the cars on the list I'm going to give you today are either 1 litres or 1.1s, so they should be fairly cheap insurance. Obviously that's going to be completely different if you've just passed your driving test. It's going to be more expensive, but I'm going to give you sort of the price of what I got quotes for these cars for. So I've been driving for 10 years, no claims and no convictions. It's with a completely no years no claims bonus, because this is a second car. I don't actually have any no claims bonus, because all my no claims bonus is on the Celica. So yeah, no years no claims bonus, 10 years driving, no claims or convictions. So yeah, for me it's going to be fairly cheap. Obviously if you're younger and just started driving, it's going to be more expensive. Number six, it's a very small detail, but it's just a personal choice of mine. The car had to be a manual. I just don't really like automatics. So yeah, number six had to be a manual. And number seven was that the car had to at least have some sort of MOT. Something else that I wanted out of the car that I was looking at to buy was that it had to be petrol. Okay, so now that I've gone through that little list of things that I wanted out of the car, I'm going to now go on to the short list of cars that I was looking at to buy. Obviously I'm already sat in my new car, so I've gone ahead and bought it. I've owned it for a couple of weeks now. I will reveal at the end of the video what car I've gone for. But in the meantime, if you guys can guess what I'm in, then go ahead in the comments, leave in the comments what you think it is, and then at the end of the video you'll be able to see if you're right or not. Okay, let's get into the cars. So first up on the list today is the Nissan Micra K11. You should be able to pick one of these up for around £400 to £500 if you look around carefully. So let's go through the stats on that one. So the Nissan Micra K11, it's £170 to tax. This is the 1 litre we're talking about specifically because it's the cheapest one out of all of them. So the 1 litre is £170 a year to tax, and actually on today's list that is the highest out of all the other cars. So this is the most expensive to tax out of all the cars on today's list. It returns 47 miles to the gallon, so like I was saying earlier, it's not quite 50 miles to the gallon, but I thought I'd still include it on the list as it is a great little car, and it's close enough. 47 to 50, it's only 3 miles to the gallon difference, is close enough. Insurance group 7, I've got no idea what insurance groups mean, to be honest, because they are all over the place. As you'll see later on in the list, some cars have a higher insurance group but are cheaper to insure. So I'm not really sure how they work it. Insurance companies are just so confusing. And obviously this is going to vary, like I said earlier, depending on your age and where you live. But the quote I got for the Micra, the 1 litre Micra, was £290 for a year. Now I should also mention that all the cars on the list are for third party fire and theft. All these quotes that I've got are for third party fire and theft, not fully comprehensive, just because we were trying to do this on a budget. So the second car on today's list is the Mark 1 Toyota Yaris, made between 1999 to 2005. You can pick these up also for around £400 to £500, specifically looking at the little 1 litre VVTi engines. So the 1 litres are £155 a year to tax, so slightly less than the Micra. They return 50 miles to the gallon average, and they are insurance group 5, and the quote that came in for me on this one was £252. So nearly a £40, nearly a £40 difference over the Nissan Micra. The third car on today's list is the little Suzuki Alto, made between 2003 to 2005. Now it's one of the very few cars in this price range of about £400 to £500 that has a £30 a year road tax limit. These little Suzuki Altos come with the 1.1 engine and they return 57 miles to the gallon, which is also really good fuel consumption wise. They're insurance group 9, and the quote that I got back for a little Suzuki Alto was £257. So the fourth car on today's list is actually one that I've owned previously, and I'll include pictures of the one that I actually owned. So it's the 2004 to 2008 Mitsubishi Colt. The reason why I've gone for that one is because obviously in 2008 they went through a bit of a facelift, and those ones are a little bit more expensive to buy. So the tax on this one is £130, so very reasonable tax, even though it's not the £30 one, unfortunately. So yeah, £130 for the road tax. It's a little 1.1 litre engine that returns 51 miles to the gallon, so again pretty good on that. It's insurance group 10, and I got a quote back for this one for £292. So the fifth and final car on today's list is a little bit of a curveball, not the usual choice, and it's not the best looking, I would say, out of all the cars on the list today. But if you can look past that and you literally just want a car as a daily, then this might be a good option for you because it actually works out as the cheapest today. So it's the Daihatsu Charade, made between 2003 to 2007. It has the £30 a year road tax limit, so just like the Suzuki Alto, it's going to save you a lot of money on road tax. It has a little 1 litre engine which brings back 58 miles to the gallon, so it's the cheapest to run out of all the cars on today's list. Now it has an insurance group of 13, which sounds quite high, but it actually came back as the cheapest quote today, so it came in at £240 for me to insure the Daihatsu Charade. What I'm going to do now quickly is just put up a little table of all the cars that I've just mentioned. I've put their how much their tax is, how much the insurance quote was, and what MPG they return, just so you guys can take a quick screenshot of it and then you can go away and do your own research on those cars. I'll now reveal to you of what car I went for out of those 5. Last chance to take your guesses because I'm about to reveal the new daily. Here it is. As you can see from the clips that I've just included, guys, yes, I've gone for the Mark 1 Toyota Yaris. Okay, so let's get on to quickly how much I've spent on the Yaris and whether we've come in under budget of the £750. So I got an absolute steal on the Yaris. It had 11 months MOT, no advisories on the last MOT. I did all the usual checks when I went to look at the car, so checked for timing chain rattle, looked under the oil cap for any milky residue, see if the head gasket had gone, took it for a drive, make sure there were no knocks or bangs, and also just had a quick look underneath the car to make sure nothing was completely rotten through. Everything seemed fine, no major problems at all. Obviously it's an old car, so it's not going to be absolutely perfect, but for the price that I was looking at, I really couldn't complain. So yeah, I managed to get the car for, actually I'll tell you how much it was advertised for. It was advertised for about £460, I think, off the top of my head, but I managed to get the guy down to £350. So I've only paid £350 for this Mark 1 Toyota Yaris. It's the 1 litre VVT-i, so the one that we were talking about earlier. So I'll go into the tax and everything now and we'll add it all up and see if we've come under budget. So the tax was £155, if you remember me saying earlier. Okay, so that takes our total to £505 from buying the car and taxing it. And then the insurance quote that I got was £252 for the year if you pay that outright. Obviously if you pay monthly it's going to cost you a little bit more, but £252 to pay for the whole year insurance outright. So yeah, I thought that was pretty good. That brings our total up to £757. I think if I've done the maths right on that, £757. So we've gone a little bit over budget. We've gone £7 over the budget of £750. I'd say a more realistic budget, guys, if you are looking to do this yourself, I would maybe bump your budget up to like £900, because that's just going to give you that little bit more leeway, especially if you're looking at the cars that are a little bit more expensive to insure. So yeah, I would, if you could, I would maybe bump your budget up to more like £850, £900. Okay, so we're going to wrap up the video there today, guys. I hope some of you found that helpful in some sort of way. If you want to see me do any more videos related to the Yaris, please let me know in the comments below, because I most likely will be doing a couple of modifications to it just to make it that little bit better. Thank you for watching today's video, guys. I really appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want to see any more content related to the Yaris or back to the Celica stuff, so you don't miss out. I'm also going to put my Instagram down in the description below, because sometimes I do post stuff on there that isn't related to the channel but is still related to the Celica. So if you're interested in that, I'll put my Instagram below. So yeah, go and give me a follow there. And yeah, just thank you again for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.